There was only a broken iron sink attached to one wall, and on the floor, a folded gray blanket and a copy of the Quran.
Misunderstanding of solitary confinement.
That's exactly the premise by which we filed a class action suit, was that it was cruel and unusual punishment.
Particularly for children, I would say absolutely and without question, it is a violation of the constitutional rights to be placed in what you're called solitary confinement.
The vacation the prison gave, which one does have to look at, is that it was to prevent them from doing harm to others. However, there are a lot of issues of the harm it did.
How would you feel if it was your child or someone you love being held in these kind of conditions that you know is only going to make their mental health issues worse and create more problems?
Sure, absolutely. And in fact, the American Medical Association, the American Association of Pediatrics has put out a statement against it.
Very serious problems re-entering society. I also think that given that the vast majority of prisoners put into a segregated unit are going to come out of that unit and put into the general prison population, it's much more likely to create, acts of violence.
As a society, we've come to believe that incarceration results in more public safety.
Particularly since, in some ways, these people are very vulnerable. And rather than providing any kind of rehabilitation, it's truly punishment.
It only speaks to the gap between what the American public knows and what is in fact reality.
The general public tends not to have a lot of sympathy for prisoners.
People, what are prisons intended to do? And if it's rehabilitation, then we have to really examine solitary confinement.
We're never going to be able to get to the point of talking about how damaging solitary confinement is and the damage that it does over the long haul.
And even though they may not have been any problem in prison before or in a jail, you have the risk that's now present to your staff. The one that probably causes the most attention and problem is you have to find a way to protect that person.
I was thankful that he was there because now he was protected from people around him that he had been a target of. And so I was actually thankful that he went into protective custody and was in a cell by himself. But it was also in that cell where guards at the Tallulah Correctional Center for Youth brought another young man. And it was just like you would see in a fight where the guards egged on this older kid to rape my son.
Including providing more protections and rights for a prisoner who's put into a segregated unit, who's put into a solitary confinement. Part of that is listing the conditions.
Solitary confinement is an important issue because it is unconstitutional under the 8th Amendment, harming inmates both physically and mentally.
Congress should impose an age restriction on its use because nobody should be subjected to solitary confinement and the emotional damage it inflicts.
There should also be a time restriction to ensure that solitary confinement is used appropriately for adults.
Have the right of freedom. we've taken that away from them. That doesn't mean that we take away everything.
Seriousness and the harshness of